So I think a good point of reference for the reason I'm making these videos is my own journey with endometriosis. I started my periods when I was about 13, and I remember in school, like, girls were starting to get their periods and everyone was like, oh, have you got yours yet? Have you got yours? And it seemed to be like this quite exciting thing that, you know, it's almost like you're a bit more grown up, you're a bit more mature now that you've got your period. And I couldn't wait for mine. Ironically, I was really excited about getting my period because it was a point of change in your life, and you start being a bit more grown up. The irony being that I didn't know what was in store for me, obviously, but I was about 13 when I got my period, and initially I think it was fine, but it wasn't particularly long before it started getting quite painful. Obviously, with 0 point of reference, I just believed that was normal. That's what periods are. They hurt. You hear about period cramps, but again, you have no frame of reference with your cramps versus anybody else's cramps. So what I was experiencing, I just believed was normal. I had very heavy periods from very early on, and a friend of mine did as well. I spoke to her about it. We all spoke relatively openly, I suppose, and she suggested trying the pill just to help with the heavy bleeding side of it. I didn't at the time know. I don't know if it was particularly well known that, you know, you can take it continuously rather than take a break. So I take it. I think I only did a couple of months worth of taking the pill. I was really forgetful. I was a teenager. I had, you know, school on my mind. I had social life on my mind. It wasn't in the forefront of my mind at the time, so I didn't stick with it. So I can't really speak to my experiences on the pill when I was that young. At 16, I had the Implanon in my arm. Again, it's something that was supposed to help reduce my period or stop my period even. Unfortunately, it didn't stop my period. It didn't stop the pain. I would still be suffering every month with days where I wasn't really able to get out of bed. I remember it was around that time I had horrendous sciatica as well. Coupled with that, so some days I would be in absolute agony, but in my lower back. So I didn't associate it with anything to do with my period or endometriosis or anything like that. It was just, it was a separate issue. So I dealt with that I had it in for a couple of years before having it taken out, because I didn't like the way that it affected me, my personality. I didn't like the mood swings. I didn't like what it was doing to me as a person. I had weight gain, moodiness, the whole side effects list. So I had that taken out and decided not to use any hormonal stuff for quite a while. As time kind of went on, like my periods remained incredibly heavy, incredibly painful. I believed it was normal. I'd go back and forth to the doctors and say that I'm in loads of pain here, and their answer was just like, it's your period. That's normal. It's normal for it to hurt. I'd be given mefenamic acid. I'd be given painkillers. I had naproxen, cocodamols even. So I was just offered painkillers. There you go. Like, take that and go away. Or I was offered the pill. I think I was offered this enough times that I went for it. A little bit older, a little bit more sensible, decided to take it. Again, didn't get on with it. It wasn't a good fit for me. The hormonal side of things just didn't work well. I thought maybe because it's different to the implant, it will behave differently. But I didn't find it sat well with me at all. Come 20 years old, I decided it was time to have a baby. My mum had me at 21, so like, you know, I had a young mum growing up, and there were so many factors of that I liked. I wanted a child at 20, 21, so started trying for a baby when I was 20. And in all honesty, I think the fact that I now have a 14-year-old son is down to the fact that it's just dumb luck. It's dumb luck that I decided at that age that I wanted to have a baby. I miscarried twice while we were trying, both about 8 weeks or so, and carried third time with my son with a relatively normal pregnancy and normal delivery. He's, you know, he was £8. He was absolutely fine. He was brilliant. Still is. But I do often question, had I waited, would I have been able to conceive? I don't know, because I believe that I was dealing with endometriosis way back then, but I was nowhere near a diagnosis at that point. I was so far from a diagnosis. I just thought I had painful periods, and that was that. And miscarriage is it's just one of those things, isn't it? As the doctors tell you. It is just one of those things. We don't know why it happens. It's just not dealt with incredibly sensitively, I don't think. Yeah, so after I had my son, obviously there's a period of time that things are still settling down, and when my periods started coming back came the pain. It started getting really, really painful again. Once a month, I'm curled up in bed. I can't really do a lot. I felt absolutely useless. Just as a human being, as a mum, as a human being, I felt just useless. My doctors are still telling me that this is normal. So I'm feeling like I'm failing because I'm not able to deal with the same thing that every other woman deals with every month. And it was really, really difficult. So I started, when my son was about 18 months old, I started looking into options again. I tried the depot injection, which again is another hormonal route that I went down because I thought, well, I've got to try. I'll try anything to make things better. The depot is supposed to stop your periods again. You know, 3 monthly inject. Was it 3 monthly or monthly? Either way, you have this injection and it's supposed to stop your periods, and great. Unfortunately, it didn't stop my period, and the thing is relentless. And I was still finding I was in pain. I was so moody. I remember watching The Lion King and absolutely bawling my eyes out. I'm not a huge crier. I don't tend to cry over movies, but I absolutely bawled my eyes out, and I'm like, wow, okay, maybe this is affecting me. I was getting so upset over everything, snappy, grumpy. It wasn't me. So again, I took myself off that one. Started to feel better, but obviously I'm still in pain every month. I suppose like my early to mid 20s, I just kind of dealt with it. I was in a relationship and I decided that I needed some contraception, so I went for the coil, and I was pushed very much into having the Mirena coil, the hormonal coil. I argued against it, saying, look, I don't like hormones. I don't get on with hormones. They don't make me feel good in myself. I suffer badly with the weight gain side of it. I suffer with moodiness, and I was told that it was such a small dose of hormone that's released over such a period of time that, you know, it won't affect you. I think I managed 2 or 3 months with it before I went back and I said, look, take it out, swap it for a copper one. So copper coil. I don't want hormones. And ironically, all of these things that I've tried over time to help me with my heavy and painful periods are the same things that they treat women with endometriosis with. I'm mid-20s at this point and still absolutely nowhere near an endometriosis diagnosis. It's just heavy periods. Other women deal with it, and that's all I had. Along with painkillers, they were happy to throw the painkillers at me, but they weren't happy to explore the possibility that it could have been something other than me just being a bit weak or pathetic or not being able to deal with my period. Again, I had sciatica on and off for years. I was getting worse throughout the month. I was finding I was getting tummy cramps through the month as well. I feel tired quite easily. I had all of these symptoms going on, they were building, but it was just put down to, if you bring one thing up, it's stress, or if you bring this up, it's just your period, or if you fast forward however many years, I was having really bad trouble. I had really bad pain when I was going for a wee, and obviously instantly the doctors jump on the UTI side of it. It's like, it's not a UTI, it's different. But they'll still treat you for the UTI. They wouldn't look at the broader picture. And I never quite understood why. They'd always just pick one symptom and just focus on that. And I suppose it's easier. It's like, if it is that, it's case closed, job done. If we fast forward to, I think it was 2020. So it's kind of September time. I started having so much pain. I was doubled over every time I went for a wee. I was nearly in tears. I was in agony. I had intermittent bleeding throughout the month, and it was significant enough that you couldn't just pass it off as a bit of spotting. I was in so much pain all the time. Days where I couldn't get out of bed. Thankfully I was in university, and I know this is dreadful, but thankfully we were in lockdown, so I could still attend my lectures because I could drag myself to my computer, or I could open my laptop in bed. So that was a real saving grace, to be able to still function as a normal human being kind of during that time, well, as best I could. All the while, I'm a single parent, but I've been super honest with my son. He's one of the most wonderful, caring young men ever. He probably understands more about women's menstrual cycle and endometriosis than half the GPs I've seen, just because we have open and honest conversations. If I'm in pain, I tell him I'm in pain, and if I say I have zero energy, he understands, and he's so patient and so kind with all of it. But it reached this point that I'm back and forth the doctors all the time, and I'm just saying something's not right. I'm in so much pain. I'm so tired all the time. I feel like I'm broken. And they say, oh, we'll refer you. So then you sit on a waiting list for an amount of time. So I think it was September 2020. I kind of had enough of being fobbed off, and I went to one of these private ultrasound scan places. I know they normally do babies, but they also do like women's health. So I had this scan, and they have the TV up in front of you, so you can see everything that's going on there. And she's looking at my uterus, and yep, the uterus is there. Looks at my one ovary, yep, that's fine. Looks at the other ovary, and I had this like nearly 10 centimeter endometrioma on my left ovary, and it was huge. And it was one of those moments. I was absolutely horrified to see something like that inside of me, but it was also some kind of validation that I'm not being a wimp. I'm not crazy. I'm not just being a hypochondriac. It's not psychosomatic. There is a thing, and that's causing me pain. And that, I suppose, was the start of where I got to a point that I was diagnosed with endometriosis. In 2020, I was 32. And I've been struggling with painful periods since I was 14, 15. So it took a very very long time to kind of get to a point that there was some evidence that it might not just be my periods just hurt. So I send these images to my GP, and I had a phone call from a locum doctor. I don't know who he was. I didn't recognise him in the surgery. I had this phone call from this doctor, and he said, "Oh yeah, we've had your images." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, great." He said, "We don't want to worry you, but it might be cancer." I'm a 32-year-old single parent. It's not what you want to hear, particularly in the middle of lockdown, when the health service is trying its best to stay together, as it is dealing with like loads more than it usually would, and then somebody throws that at you. So it was a bit of a panic, to be honest. I know he said not to worry, but I worried. So I, through a friend of a friend, managed to kind of book in for a private consultation with somebody who specialises in gynae. He took one look at the photo and said that's an endometrioma, most probably. And I explained my symptoms to him, and it was the first time I'd sat down and had a conversation with a doctor who I didn't have to justify my pain. I didn't have to justify why I was there. I didn't have to try and make them believe me because, like, look, I'm in loads of pain. I know I'm up and about, and I know I'm walking around, and I know I'm kind of doing my best to kind of carry on with life, but I'm still in agony. And he just went, "Yeah, you probably are." And he said, "Bet my last tenner on it being endometriosis." So I suppose like that was December time 2020 that I seen him, and it was the first time that the word endometriosis had been used. So I looked at my options, and it was either continue with the NHS, and bear in mind I'm still on this waiting list from September to speak to a consultant, gynae consultant, about the fact that I obviously have very heavy and painful periods. And I managed to get myself in for a private operation with any money that I had kind of tucked away, with help from friends and family, and covered the cost of a private see and treat laparoscopic excision. And the follow-up of that was I had endometriosis just everywhere. It was on my bowel, it was on my ureter, it was on my sciatic nerve, which explains my sciatica. It was all over my abdominal wall. I was plastered in it. And we obviously had a conversation afterwards on a follow-up. He went, "No wonder you were in so much pain." He said, "How that hasn't been picked up, I don't know." But it hadn't been. It's not through a lack of my trying to speak to my doctors about it or say, "Look, there's something wrong." I tried to do my part, but they just, I don't know. Endometriosis just isn't picked up as well as it should be. It's not taken as seriously as it should be, and even then, a lot of the times it's like, "Oh, heavy period, try the pill." And I've got some very, very strong opinions on the pill, and the way that it's just thrown out. Don't think it's particularly good for you, personally, but it's not good for me, I should say. But it's definitely not a cure for endometriosis. It might mask some of the symptoms for some people, but it is definitely not a cure for endometriosis, because there is no cure for endometriosis. And the laparoscopic excision that I had was after I'd recovered from the surgery. The way that I felt was like it was like the world was in Technicolor for the first time. It was like, those Disney movies where they open the curtains in the morning, the birds are singing, and it's all like bright and colourful and it's wonderful. And it was like that. My life, and I was thinking, is this how people feel? Is this how normal people feel, like in their own bodies all the time? Because I could never remember feeling like that. It was amazing. I can't do backflips, but I felt like I could have done backflips down the road, And my energy levels were through the roof. My sciatica completely disappeared. My periods were, I'd get a cramp. I'd get this little twingy cramp, and that was about it. I remember it was my first or second period after my lap, and apologies if this is TMI, but I had a tampon in, and I forgot that I was on my period, and I bled through my tampon because I forgot that I was on my period for the first time in forever, because it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt. And I was like, wow, this is what they're supposed to be like. And the contrast from before and after this operation was insane, absolutely insane. It was like I had a whole new body. There was no pain when I went for a wee anymore. There was no pain when I went to the toilet at all. There was no pain with anything I had. And if I went out for a day and I did something and I had a busy day, I didn't suffer with like fatigue the following day. I was fine. I could just keep going. It was amazing. And I thought, that's it, I'm sorted. Life's great. But obviously if that was true, I probably wouldn't be making this video. Unfortunately, I'm one of the ones that the endo came back, and it does, and it can. I don't know the percentage exactly that endo returns after a full laparoscopic excision. And I do still have my uterus, I do still have both ovaries. I just had the endometriosis removed. So early, end of the first quarter, I suppose, of 2023, I started to really notice that there'd been a downward shift in my health again. And it was those pains coming back. And you recognise it pretty quickly. You recognise it. And it was just like the world broke again, because I knew what it was. I knew it was back. And I also knew that I was like back at the bottom of the pile for trying to get anywhere with it. So I went back to the doctor and said, look, I think the endo's back. And he offered me the pill. I'm like, no, we know that doesn't work for me. We know that's no good for me. So then I was just offered cocotamol, naproxen, whatever. I was offered Oromorph. I was offered morphine, like an oral morphine. I was offered Oromorph because at this point, I've had a diagnosis, I've had a surgery, I've had the scan, I've got all of that information. So they can't just go, it's just your period now. You know, so it's bad enough that they decided that morphine was a suitable offering for me and my pain. Which I can't take because, you know, I'm a single parent. How am I supposed to function and look after my son and take him to school? And I was still in university at the time, you know, I was finishing up my master's. So I need to be compos mentis. I need to be like, you know, with it. And sometimes, unfortunately, the pain is the better alternative to some of the side effects of the painkillers. And that's an awful decision to have to make. You know, do I stay in pain or do I knock myself out with painkillers? Because they do. They wipe me out. So it was really difficult knowing that it had come back, and I was devastated, absolutely devastated. And I felt like really ashamed because obviously friends and family had helped me pay for this operation. It's like this life-changing operation. And it really, really was life-changing for a period of time. And then when it came back, it was just darkness. I did cave at one point, and I was so desperate that I did try the pill again. And it was literally within 2 weeks, my mood was all over the place. I was not happy. I was not doing well. I didn't know what else to do. And it was something that know I don't get on with. It's something that I know doesn't sit well with me, but I had to do something. Um, and it was worse this time as well, because I know how good it feels to not have the endometriosis. I know how good that feels. I know how good I should feel. So I've got a point of reference now. I've got that. And I booked in for another consultation with the surgeon that did my surgery privately before, and I had a conversation with him, and he put me on to something called Visane, that, or Diengest, as some people might know it as, that is clinically shown to have less adverse effects than the pill. It stops your period. The mood side of it isn't as severe. So I went on that, and I took that for quite a while. My mood did suffer. I'll be honest, my mood did suffer. Everything was just a little bit muted. I didn't feel particularly happy in myself. I gained weight. I wasn't great, but on the plus side, it did stop my period. I still had pains, I still had fatigue, but I wasn't dealing with the period side of it. I believe it has shown in clinical practice to actually reduce the endometriosis. I don't know if that worked particularly well with me or not. I don't know. I haven't had another like internal kind of checkup like before and after, so I can't definitively say. But I don't feel that it made things a great deal better for me. When I moved from, because I was living in Wales at the time, when I moved and it had been licensed in Wales, I moved to England, and the area in which I live, it's apparently a bit of a postcode lottery, and I could not get a Diengest. I was just told, no, it's a red drug. Even through consultant at the time, not able to. So it was a bit of a, right, okay, so what do I do now? So again, I looked into other options. End of 2023, I ended up going on GnRH, which is chemical induction of the menopause. So at 35, I kind of chemically put myself into the menopause. My experience with that was horrendous. I managed 3 months with that, and I was in a very, very dark place mentally with it. Even taking I took the ad back, so the HRT ad back, that made me horrendously snappy. I was moody. I was still in so much pain all the time, all day, every day. I was just hurting. So given the trade, if it had taken away all the pain, but I'd been a little bit grumpy, maybe we could have dealt with it. But it just seemed that I had all this pain. I took the GnRH, and it just added a whole load of other symptoms on top. So I felt that maybe that wasn't the right drug for me to be taking. So I took myself off that. And it took quite a while for that to kind of get out of my system, particularly the hot flushes. Oh my God, the hot flushes, don't even go there. It took a while for all that to kind of get out. But while everything was on its way out of my system, I had this period where I felt like maybe I'm getting better. Maybe I'm okay. Because I still had the pain, I still had the fatigue, it still hurt, but my mood was pretty good. I was okay. The pain maybe wasn't as deep, maybe not as severe. But I think as time's gone on, I think I've just realised that I was still settling back to normal. And now, obviously, we're kind of towards the end of October 2024. I haven't been on any treatment for quite some time. I have a benzodiazepine for relaxing muscles and cramps and things like that. when I really, really need it. The cocodamols make me feel dreadful. I feel like I've got a hangover, so I don't tend to take them unless I'm I'm so in need of it. I'm prepared to write off the following day. I tend to stay away from the cocodamols. I do take the anti-inflammatories. I don't know if they really do a great deal. Hot water bottles. I have one for the front, one for the back, and I've got a big wraparound one as well. So they tend to help. I've got a little heating pad. I've tried the TENS machines. I try so hard to help myself because I know that the help that we deserve as women going through this just isn't available. It's just not. So I will do everything that I can to help myself. In the past 6 months, I've had 2 consultations. I've been back and forth with the doctors numerous times, and I'm always told the same thing. It's usually either a UTI or they offer me the pill. It's not a UTI. It's absolutely not. You know your body. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Argue with those doctors because you know your body. So yeah, I've been back and forth with doctors so many times, but I've had the 2 consultations. I spoke to one doctor, one consultant, gynae specialist, deals with endometriosis. Seems pretty switched on about it all, to be honest. And I mentioned to him about the fact that I was trying NAC, which is N-acetylene L-cytine. I tried that for a while. It's kind of more of a supplement. I didn't notice a great deal of difference with it, if I'm completely honest. For some people it might work wonders, but for me personally, I didn't find it made enough of a difference to my life to continue taking. So I explained this to him. I explained that I would like a hysterectomy, but I would like to leave ovaries intact because I'm not prepared to go through menopause just yet. I don't want to be thrown into it. I want it to go more naturally. I'm rather hoping that I'll have a more pleasant experience than I did when I tried the GnRH, because that was difficult. So we kind of spoke about things, and he said, like, basically whatever you decide you want, I will give you. And I said, I want some dichloroacetate. And he smiled and then said, but I can't give you that. Right, okay. So dichloroacetate, again, I'm going to do a whole video on dichloroacetate, and it's something that this is I suppose what's kicked off this YouTube series, is I'm doing a trial with dichloroacetate for myself at the moment because I've managed to acquire it through a lab rather than through doctors or consultants. So I think he understands that there have been some really, really promising studies, but he's not able to endorse that, and he's not able to give me that, which is absolutely fine. I understand and I respect that. I'm on a waiting list for an MRI. It'll be the first MRI that I've had. I've had a couple of ultrasounds. This will be the first MRI I've had for investigation of like pain and endometriosis. I'm not particularly hopeful that it'll show a great deal because they're notoriously not great at picking up endometriosis. But we shall see, and as and when I have one, I will update you. But yeah, I kind of came out of that consultation on a waiting list for another excision because the surgery helped. The surgery was great. In my experience, the surgery that I had was fantastic because it gave me 2 years of a normal life, and I was able to live, and I was really happy, and everything was great. Everything, like, life was just so much easier. Everything was easier. Getting out of bed in the morning was easier. So I'm on a waiting list there. I was also referred to another hospital by my GP, trying to expedite things left, right, and centre because I think, to be honest, they're just sick to death of me. Which fine, I get it. I'm not an easy customer when it comes to all this. I was referred to another consultant. I had a consultation there. I mentioned NAC. He had no idea what I was on about. I mentioned dichloroacetate. He had no idea what I was on about. I mentioned some of the studies I've looked at. He had no idea what I was on about. He decided that the only way to cure me of my endo was a full hysterectomy with excision of both ovaries. So you got a bilateral oophorectomy as well as the hysterectomy. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. He sounded like an absolute butcher. So I asked him to confirm that he was an endometriosis specialist, and he told me no, he wasn't. He was just general gynae. Right, okay, conversation's done here. I'm done. And we left it at that. I have over the years my attitude towards doctors and consultants has changed significantly. I used to think they were like holier than thou. They were the smartest people in the room. And this is no shade to doctors. This is no shade to doctors or consultants, but this is just a reminder that you know your body. You know your body. Don't let anybody tell you that your pain is like insignificant. Don't let anybody tell you that, oh, we're going to do this and not this, and you just have to go along with it because they're a doctor. Like, absolutely not. I think I've learned to stand up for myself a lot more through all of this, which has been a godsend, because I feel like I'm getting a lot further, a lot faster now that I'm able to say no, or I want this, and I will stand my ground. And I will say, I would like this and I would like this. And I go to them with a plan. And it has gotten me a lot further. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of reading. I spend time on forums. I hear about other people's experiences, like maybe your experiences. And I think I've gone from feeling very, very lonely with endometriosis. Because it's a very, very isolating disease. It can be really, really tough. Particularly on the really bad days, it can be horrible. I suppose I've gotten to a point now that I just feel so angry. I'm so angry. And I really want to start a fire that's going to spread and hopefully change the way that this is dealt with, and hopefully change the way that women's health and women's pain is dealt with. Because I read so many stories about women who are going to the doctors and they're told it's just their period. About women who are going to the doctors and they're just getting fobbed off with a pill. Or like there's no investigation. We just carry on and we keep going, and then everybody goes, oh, but you're fine. But you don't look ill. You're okay. And we're not a lot of the time. We're really, really not. Listen, my home life suffers. My work life suffers. I've had to leave a job before now. I left a job back in January because I just physically wasn't able to do it. It wasn't a difficult job. It was a sales job. It wasn't a hard job. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do 5 days a week of work because that fatigue debt wouldn't be clear by Monday morning. Oh God, no, I'd still be absolutely shattered Monday morning when I'm trying to go back to work after I've rested all weekend. And it was just building. And yeah, sales is stressful, but you know, I enjoy a little bit of stress. But I had to quit a job over this. And at the same time, I've still got doctors saying, yeah, but periods hurt, or maybe it's just a UTI. It's all a little bit wrong, in my opinion. So I'm hoping that by sharing these experiences, other people will kind of go, yeah, me too. And like, I'm in the same boat here, and maybe stand up and speak a little louder when you're dealing with health professionals, or when you're dealing with people around you as well. People need to know, you know, if you're in pain, like, people need to know. I'm super lucky that my son he's grown up with this, and he knows so much about women's health and endometriosis, and when I have a bad day, he will, you know, throw chocolate at me from a safe distance. You know, he's a great kid. He's wonderful, but I don't feel that he should have to have known all of that. He shouldn't have had to deal with me going through it with such little support and so little help for so many years. And this is, I suppose, where I've gotten to a point now that I've tried so many different things. I think at one point I was taking 11 supplements a day. I was on turmeric and magnesium and this, and like, if it was anti-inflammatory, I was taking it, and it didn't make any difference. I'm going to be honest, I haven't tried an anti-inflammatory gluten-free diet, because I mean, if you take biscuits away from me, I don't think I'd be an entirely pleasant person. There's some things in life I just can't sacrifice. And I genuinely don't believe in my case it would make all that much difference. I am, however, trialling the DCA. Obviously, I'm doing a bit of a documentary weekly update on that, so if you want to check that out, please do. You can follow along, see how I'm getting on with it. It's by no means medical advice, absolutely not medical advice. It is just a vlog where I'm recording how I'm getting on with taking another kind of medication. It's not licensed. I mean, this is all on me. So I'm not suggesting for a moment that you try it. Quite the opposite, in fact. But if it's something that does work, we need to get this to a point that we're able to get it through our doctors sooner rather than later. Again, I'm going to do a whole video on DCA, dichloroacetate, about the dosaging, the side effects. I'm going to look into the study as well and try and bring a little bit of that to you as well. But it looks really, really promising. Really promising. I'm right at the start of this, so I'm hoping that I'm right. I'm hoping that it does make a difference. I'm hoping that it does give me some kind of relief. But by all means, if you want to follow along, drop me a follow, and I'll update the videos, hopefully on a weekly basis. As I said, we're going to run for at least 12 weeks, maybe longer, depending on how well I tolerate it all. So I'm really quite excited for that. But in the meantime, if you've got any questions about endometriosis, or if you've got any comments, or if you think I've missed anything really important, then please drop me a comment and let me know, and I'll try and address it in the next one.